Hello, grade 8s. Here we have solving two-step equations of type 2. I suggest that you watch all the solving equations videos. If you've just jumped to this one, you should start at just solving equation intro, solving one-step equations, solving two-step equations type 1. This is type 2. This is what type 2 looks like. You have an x, but in type 1, it was 3x or negative 4x. There was a number in front of the x. In the type 2, there's a number below the x, so it means division. So x divided in 2, add or plus a number equals another number. And again, they can be in a different order, but that's what type 2 looks like. So here's what we want to do. Still the same thing. X always wants to be by itself on whichever side it's on. So there's the equal sign, a dividing line. So x divide 2 is over here. It wants to be by itself. Got to get rid of that positive 5. So we do the opposite to get rid of it. So this positive 5, we put negative 5. And whatever we add to this side, we also add to this side, because you have to do to one side what you've done to the other. This is a zero pair, cancels out. We're left with x divide 2 is equal to negative 8 plus a negative 5, negative 13. Now, we want to get x by itself, so we do the opposite of divide 2, which in this case is times 2. So whatever we do to one side, we do to the other, right? Now, when you have a divided by 2 and a multiply by 2, these are two opposite operations. They cancel out and they become 1. So basically, you're left with x. On this side, x is equal to negative 13 times 2, negative 26, and that is our answer. That's the final answer that we want. Okay, here's number 2. We have a negative x divided in 3 minus 16 is equal to 9. So we have a dividing line. The x is over here on the left side. It wants to be by itself, all of this. So we have to do the opposite of, this is take away 16, also thought of as a negative 16. So the opposite of negative 16 is a positive 16. Whatever I add to one side, I add to the other, and that cancels out the zero pair. We're left with negative x divide 3 is equal to 25. Now I want to get that negative x all by itself, so I do the opposite of divide 3. The opposite of that is times 3. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. That cancels out these 3's because divide 3 times 3 is opposite. We're left with a negative x equal to 25 times 3. That's 75. Now in lesson 1, we said you can never have a negative x. X must always be positive. So in order to do that, I take this, I make it positive, make it its opposite. But whatever I do to this side, I also have to do to this side. So I have to make this its opposite. And that's our answer. X equals negative 75. Okay, I'm going quickly here, but hopefully you can rewind it and watch it again if you're missing things, okay? Next one, here we go, number 3. We have the equal sign here, so notice that x is on the right side. It's x divided by negative 4, add 5, or positive 5 on this side, and negative 10 on this side. Well, this x wants to be by itself, so in order to get it by itself, we have to put negative 5 here, and whenever I add to this side, I add to this side, right? That cancels out the zero pair. We're left with over here negative 10, but I added negative 5 is negative 15. That equals to x divide negative 4. And now we want to get x all by itself. In order to do that, I have to do the opposite of divide negative 4. I times negative 4. Notice that I just put the opposite of divide as times, but the negative 4 doesn't become a positive. Whatever this is, that must be the same. Don't make it a positive, right? Whatever I do to this side, I have to do to this side. So I have to multiply this by negative 4 as well. So these negative 4's cancel out because when you multiply and divide by the negative 4, it becomes 1. So over here, we got negative 15 times negative 4. That's a positive, and that's 60. And that's equal to x. And that's exactly what we want. 60 is equal to x. Or if you prefer to say x equals 60, that's also good as well. And I don't have to put the positive because we know it's positive. Okay, last question right here. We have negative 6 equals negative x divide 5, negative 10, or take away 10, but I think of it as a negative 10. There's our equals. Got to add 10. Got to get rid of that negative 10, but I got to also do the same over here. I cancel out the zero pair. I'm left with negative 6, add 10, so that's a 4 positive, or just 4, equals to negative x divide 5. Now I want to do the opposite of divide 5 to get this by itself. So I times 5, and I do the same over here. And that cancels out the 5s. We're left with, on this side, 20 equals negative x. Again, you cannot have negative x. You must have positive x. So that will become positive x. And this must reverse to its opposite, negative 20. And that is our answer for x. X is negative 20. Okay? And we're going to do one problem here for you. Actually, going back, here's some questions you can try just for extra practice. So you can try this question here. X divided 5 minus 12 is negative 7. I've just gone to the extent of putting the answer down. You can see if you can get this answer. There's number 6. There's a question there. And there's the answer you would try to get. Okay, you can rewind. You can pause it and try it if you like. Here's another question right here, and its answer. Maybe you could pause that and try. And finally, here's another question here. This is kind of a tricky one. See if you can get that answer for this question. Okay. All right. So really quickly, x is if x is equal to 40, is this the solution to each question? So here's a question right here. It says use substitution. So what that means is if I take 40 and I insert it here, this whole equation should be true. So let's try it out. So negative 40, I'm just putting 40 where x is, divide 5 plus 3 equals negative 5. Is that true? If it's true, then we would say yes, it's the solution. So negative 40 divide 5, that's negative 8. Add 3 is negative 5. Well, is negative 8 add 3, is that negative 5? Yes, it is. Negative 5 is equal to negative 5. So the answer is yes, it is a solution. Okay, so you can try these questions down here if you'd like. So this question here, x divide 5 minus 11 is equal to negative 6. You'll find I found the answer to be no, and the reason is because negative 3 is not going to be equal to negative 6. And over here, when you try this question, negative x, 11 is equal to negative x divide 8 plus 16. The answer is yes, because 11 will equal 11. Anyways, I'm rushing through it, but running out of time. I hope that helps, and good luck.